Hello, all. I'm Mike with WriterSanctuary, and today we're going to be looking at the repetition reports in AutoCrit. Now, repetition is pretty much one of the biggest reasons why I decided to give AutoCrit a try, because I repeat a lot of stuff. But you really never know just how much you repeat certain phrases until you have something scan through it and point them out for you. And I've had quite a bit to fix so far. Now, before we get started, I do want to point out that you should never absolutely change every single thing that an automated editing system tells you to change, because it doesn't take into context or it doesn't take into account the context of the story. Sometimes repetition is needed to accentuate a scene. I've talked about this a little bit before when I was overviewing AutoCrit in the first place. But today we're going to be taking a little bit closer look at the three different reports that are in repetition. Now, the first report we're going to be looking at is repeated words. Now, these are words that you have repeated within a certain distance of each other and can lead to a bad read. Now, this was something that Tom Bromley pointed out when I took the master class for how to write a novel. I did have a few words that were the same word that were too closely put into the manuscript. Essentially, when you start repeating words, then it gets, well, repetitive. So you either have to describe something a little bit different or use some synonyms that make sense. So with AutoCrit, it'll show you how many times the words are repeated throughout the entire manuscript. As you can see, the first one that it detects is humans. So if I was to click on the checkbox, it'll show me that I've got 3 instances of the word humans within a certain distance from each other. Now, you don't necessarily have to fix every single one of these. Sometimes that word just makes better sense. However, there's a couple of instances where I have the character's name, Jack, 10, 11 times within like 2 paragraphs. And so with those instances, I could probably get away with using different synonyms of him, such as using he or the warden or another identifier that I use throughout the book. But as you scroll along, you can see all the different times that certain words are used too closely together. And let's look at gun. So like if we click on this one, then we see that we have 3, and I can change that, at least one of those, to firearm or whatever the gun type is, just to get the book to flow better. Like I said, you don't want to necessarily change every single thing that AutoCrit or Pro Writing Aid or Grammarly points out, but this tool does highlight how often you use certain words, and sometimes changing it up a bit makes for a better read. As you can see from the comparison with Stephen King, I use quite a few more than he does. The next report we're going to look at is word frequency. Now, this is one that I kind of pointed out during the pros and cons of AutoCrit. I still haven't figured out what exactly this tool wants me to do. As you can see, it wants me to remove damn near all instances of the word Jack throughout the entire book. Well, Jack is the main character's name, so no. The same with Charlie, Henry, and there's a lot of instances where the word silver is justified because, well, they're talking about silver bullets mostly. So I'm not sure if AutoCrit is supposed to pick out names like that or what the word frequency report is supposed to do generally, but it might have a few instances where it kind of works. Like take the word walking here. It wants me to remove about 69 of them. Well, there's a lot of walking in the book. Is there a different way I can describe it? Probably. I mean, I'll probably go through some of these just to see if they're justified, but for the most part, a lot of the words that it's highlighting and wants me to remove the majority of are parts that belong in the book, like ocean. Well, they're in Atlantic City. They talk about the Atlantic Ocean quite a bit. So out of all the tools that are in AutoCrit, the word frequency report is pretty much the only one that's really pointless. It probably has some use, but I haven't been able to figure one out, so I don't know. If somebody out there knows what the word frequency is for and why it keeps flagging my characters' names, leave in the comments. I'd love to learn. And lastly, we have phrase frequency, which is what I've been working on lately. Now, phrase frequency is how often certain phrases are used throughout the entire book. These can be 3 words and up, but so far I have found quite a few that luckily I was able to fix. For example, when I first started, I think, what was it? In the distance was one that I used quite often. And so I went through and took a look at all the ones that had in the distance and then rewrote the description to make it more engaging. Now, some of these are going to be necessary, like Jack and Charlie is used 14 times throughout the book, but that's because the book is about Jack and Charlie. But like if you scroll down here, it looks like I've got was starting to. I've used that 10 times. Back and forth was used 10 times. Edge of the was used 10 times. In the darkness was 10. So when you're going through the reports, you can find quite a few that you pretty much copied throughout the entire book. And over the last couple of weeks, I have removed quite a few that were kind of, well, embarrassing, really. But like I said before, you don't want to change whatever AutoCrit throws out there because some of them are going to be necessary for the context of the scene. But some of the other ones that lack description and kind of promote lazy writing, you might want to go through and highlight and check. For example, I use along the beach 10 times. I'm sure I could probably come up with a better description for it. But there you have it. AutoCrit is a decent tool. I still don't have any idea what word frequency is for, but I might check some of the words out just to make sure that it's not a lack of description, but I'm not going to remove almost every instance of the character's name. The repeated words and the phrase frequency are worthwhile because there are times where it can seem redundant to keep using the same words over and over especially in the same paragraph. And with phrase frequency, we have a lot of bad habits while we write our books, and sometimes we'll use the same phrase repeatedly when something else could have been much better. But so far, AutoCrit has been a really fun tool to use. I love pitting my stuff against Stephen King just for shits and giggles, but for the most part, it's been quite invaluable polishing up the story. Unfortunately, I had to disable Grammarly because it was making it stupid slow. Now, I don't know if that was a Grammarly thing or a Chrome needing to be updated thing, but I'm going to be having to spell check it one more time before I have my beta readers run one more pass through it. I still think it is a bit of an expensive tool for what it is, especially since there's way cheaper alternatives out there. But it does have quite a few reports to it, and it does a decent job to finding the stuff I need to fix. Otherwise, I'd have to sit there and find them all myself, which would be a very repetitious pain in the ass. But with any luck, in a couple of weeks, I'll be able to slap a book cover on this bad boy and call it good, but I'm not going to rush something just so I can publish it. I want it to be the best book I can write. So we're going to go through it a couple more times and add more details here and there, and hopefully turn this into, it'd be awesome if we turn it into a bestseller, but I'm not going to hold my breath. I would like to sell at least a couple of copies. Anywho, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. For more videos about self-publishing, blogging, freelance writing, or anything else I cover, hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the notification bell. I think it's going to do it for me today. I'm going to get back to writing my book. I'll see you next time.